Test, test.
We'll call to order the regular Board of Education meeting at 6:30. And if we'll all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, Ryder is going to lead us off with that. First order of business, public comment. A member of the public may address the board briefly for up to 3 minutes or request to be scheduled on the agenda for a future meeting. Please note that students will be given priority to speak on any topic. The first public participation portion of the meeting will normally be limited to 30 minutes and will be limited to agenda items. The second public participation portion will be offered at the end of the agenda. Will allow for any other comments. Individuals addressing the board should observe the rules of common courtesy. Public participation portion of the meeting cannot be used to make personal attacks against board members, district employees, and students. And we don't have any, I don't believe. And response to public comment, I have no responses to that. Revisions and approval of the agenda. Can I recommend a motion to approve the agenda as printed?
So moved, Berwick.
Support, McVeigh.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, hearing none, motion carries 7-0. And so our student showcase is the Harvest Kindness Squad. The presenters are Gwendolyn Finch, Catherine Krasko, Margot Lutz, and Jane Zach.
Hi, I am Emily Sickler. I am the very proud principal of Harvest Elementary School and I'm so excited to share a little bit with you about the Harvest Kindness Squad. But actually we have a lot of people that want to talk about the Harvest Kindness Squad. So we do have a couple student presenters and we actually have a lot of other people here out of the Harvest Kindness Squad that are just showing their support. I think that just speaks on behalf of what the Harvest Kindness Squad does. It just shows the kindness and just shows a little bit about what Harvest does. So we want to talk to you a little bit about that.
Hello, my name is Brittany Benedetto. I'm the PE teacher at Harvest and one of the advisors. And we just wanted to bring our squad to you today to kind of tell you a little bit about what we do and who we are. So the Kindness Squad is a group of students, young 5s through 3rd grade, who work together in different ways to show kindness around Harvest School and around our community. They work together to do random acts of kindness, but also some scheduled activities too. So recently we held a Super Bowl at our school for Saline Area Social Services, and some of our students will share a few more of their highlights of some of the things that we've done.
We're going to talk a little bit more about this later, but something that we just recently done that we're really excited about is called the Little Victor-thon. We raised $3,762. But I think while you're all here is to hear from our students.
I'm interested in being kind to the whole entire school. I liked dancing, and I knew one of the songs. The airplane song. That was really fun. Harvest is a really good school to be with your friends. These are my friends in the Kindness Squad in Mrs. Mayer's class.
I've been in the Kindness Squad the whole time I've been at Harvest. I want to be in the Kindness Squad because I want to help others. I thought it was really exciting when the kids dumped all the coins during the Little Victor-thon. The Kindness Squad helps our community and Harvest. I like being on the Kindness Squad because I like being helpful.
This is my first year in Harvest Kindness Squad. I saw when I was in 2nd grade that the Kindness Squad did a lot of cool stuff. This year I enjoyed setting up the hot cocoa bar for the staff in the lounge, and the Little Victor-thon was really fun. The Harvest Kindness Squad helps kids and adults remember that there can always be a little more kindness.
I have been in the Harvest Kindness Squad, kindergarten, 2nd grade, and now in 3rd grade. I enjoy setting up the hot cocoa bar for the staff, and it was fun to see the staff lounge. In 2nd grade, I liked collecting the cans during the Super Bowl. 793 pounds this year. There were bins in each hallway, and we got to collect them and count the cans in the media center. The Kindness Squad spreads kindness around our whole school.
Hi there. I'm obviously not a Harvest student. I am Kristen Kurtz, and I am a Harvest parent. My son Joey has been in the Kindness Squad for 3 years, but I am also the Director of Digital Fundraising and Student Philanthropy for CS Mott Children's Hospital. So I am here in kind of a dual capacity. But I just wanted to share how wonderful this program is at Harvest and the amazing opportunities for learning that it's providing kids. Early giving and service help with, confidence and empathy and a sense of social responsibility. We try to do age-appropriate activities that really engage kids in a way that feels tangible. So with the Little Victorthon, kids were collecting coins over the course of 2 weeks, and then at the assembly, we had a minute for Mott where they had 60 seconds to come and dump everything that they've raised into these 2 big buckets. And so the idea of, wow, the more we can get into the bucket, the more money we're raising. But philanthropy benefits, obviously, both the community and a child's development. But wanted to share a little bit more about the impact of what these students have done over the course of 2 years, because this year was our second Little Victorthon. They spent, like as I said, 2 weeks learning a dance. We do this program in partnership with Dance Marathon at the University of Michigan. It is a student-run nonprofit that raises money for pediatric therapy programs at Mott. They hold a 24-hour marathon where they stand for all 24 hours. And so they provide a custom-designed line dance for these students to learn. Usually it's about 5 or 6 songs, and they learn it over 2 weeks in their PE class. And then they're given a sticker badge that's a Mott superhero sticker that they're able to decorate in art class. And then on the day of the actual assembly, they don their sticker, and we provide superhero capes, and the Dance Marathon students come with my team, and they perform the dance as a group. And then we do the minute for Mott. In 2 years, we've had a fundraising total of over $7,000, which was matched by Delta Airlines. They match every dollar of our Little Victorthon program. It has supported 15 different programs at Mott, everything from adaptive tree climbing to music therapy to art therapy, therapeutic gaming, the list kind of goes on and on. These are programs that are available to any patient that comes to Mott. So if you're going into the ER with a broken arm, you might see a child life specialist who comes and brings art therapy or music therapy, something to help you kind of through that experience. None of these programs are funded through insurance, so they're entirely dependent upon philanthropy. Last March, the Kindness Squad came to Victorthon, Dance Marathon's event. They have a 2-hour free community carnival that's open to anyone in the community to come out and learn more about what they're raising money for, why they're standing. The students, I think we had close to 40 kids that came out and did a check presentation during that community carnival of the money that they had raised in their Little Victorthon. They will be invited back to do another one. Victorthon will be on Saturday, April 18th this year. So we will make sure that everybody's aware of the time so you can show up and show your support. But what I loved most about this program is that it has inspired kids to do more. And in this case, Little Victorthon, in my personal experience, it's initiated activities like my son decided for his birthday party not to ask for presents. Instead, he's turning 8. Bring an $8 donation to Mott Children's Hospital. We have another little second grader who held a lemonade stand last summer, and when he was done, decided he wanted to buy video games for the kids at Mott, so he donated his money. And then, something as simple as Mrs. Taggart's Christmas party, they decorated bookmarks for our lending library that they do at Mott. So every kid who gets a book gets a bookmark that's designed by a child in a second grade class. So it's just the idea that it continues to grow and grow. So what, Principal Sickler, Mrs. Reeves, Mrs. Benedetto have, built is not just something to be commended, it's something to be celebrated. They're literally raising our children in a way to be good humans and to give back and be the best possible versions of themselves. So thank you for letting me speak, but I'm proud as a beneficiary of their efforts, but mostly I'm just absolutely thrilled as a parent.
And I just want to take a minute. We do have some other Kindness Squad members. If we could just have them stand up and we can celebrate all the Kindness Squad members that we have here in the audience. I think we just said it best. It's so important just to be able to spread a little bit of kindness. So we hope that this presentation reminds you that you can spread a little bit of kindness in your school, in your community, and that how important that is. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Can we all gather over here for a picture?
Oh, we would love
Yes.
that. Yes. If you're a Kindness Squad member, if you want to come over and so we can take a picture.
Let me check to make sure you're not under the table. Okay.
Yeah.
Moving on, administrative and board committee updates. Superintendent update.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. I did want to kind of mix this up a little bit, and I do have a short presentation for you all as a follow-up to my transition plan, and then, of course, that final transition plan update from November. It kind of looked like that up in the top left-hand corner. And as you may remember, for the community and for the team and board members up here, I called for 3 next steps from that transition plan, and so I'd just like to talk a little bit about those tonight, and where we are with them, and where we are putting in a lot of work. So, as you may recall, those 3 areas that I identified from that transition plan and phase 4, if you will, of data collection, the next steps was some reorganization of the district, working on early childhood expansion as, like I named that, the top priority, and strategic planning with you all and our community. And so I wanted to start with a brief update. Just have one slide here for you on where we're at with some district reorganization efforts. As you may recall, we were doing a lot of work in the fall with benchmarking high-performing districts and looking at evidence-based models to perhaps add some layers to our organizational model to ensure great support for administrators and direct and clear lines for that support and accountability. And so we have nearly completed that, and we'll be sharing a new structure. We have directors that will be reporting to either principals, will be supported by, and have direct lines with our principals and or assistant superintendents. The other piece here, I just want to thank our SASA and SCA for working with us on redeveloping some pipelines to ensure we have succession planning and leadership pipelines in place, so some very beginnings of that. So we've nearly completed adjusting some of the building level roles to ensure we have that in place. And again, this is an iterative process with lots of feedback. So we'll continue for next steps, refining that from feedback and from input. And then again, we'll have a visual representation of kind of what this looks like for available by June. The bigger piece of updates I wanted to share, and we're bought into the ecosystem term, I think at this point, is some efforts to look at our early childhood offerings for potential expansion and a development of an ecosystem of early childhood programs that won't just happen overnight, but that we have embarked on to develop with stakeholders. So just as a reminder, we've started this process. We have reviewed all district buildings and current configurations to explore potential expansion. We are in Liberty right now is our current setting, and literally right now. And so we know that our space, we only have certain space available here. But I want to talk about the why first. I've got a couple of slides for you here. And, the first experiences that we have with school matter. They matter a lot. The people who we're with when we start school and how we develop relationships with families and our community is incredibly important. And so those early connections, hopefully 3, 4, and 5, but then possibly before, are incredibly important. Early childhood supports and added programming can also support kindergarten readiness. We know that high quality preschool taught by high quality educators are key to that, to help children develop foundational skills. And when these programs align with our lower elementary schools, these things also matter. So we ensure that we have practices in place where we're helping transition patterns from early childhood onto our lower elementaries. Right now, Saline is entering the picture much later. We have surrounding areas, counties, and also within Washtenaw County that are ahead of the curve, if you will, and have these offerings. And so that's one thing we're considering as we look at expansion here. And then also we have demand. So we have an incredible demand for this. I think, the shortage of spots for children to be learning with us are very real and evident. And so the goal here, the why, the bigger why, is just that stronger starts for student and families are really going to be a difference maker for our students. So I want to talk a little bit about what we've done then, that's the why. So what have we done just since August? That this has been a discussion for much longer before August. And so we did launch that additional GSRP classroom, and then we've been monitoring and supporting that classroom and to ensure that is an effective programming. And we've also, because of that, seen increasing demand. And so we have, again, additional space needs even for next year. And so we'll be expanding in this building by one additional classroom in the fall. Since then, we've spent a lot of time with partners. We have data partners with Plant Moran. We've spent some time with them. We still have a draft version of some data that we intend to share throughout the next couple of months as we look to expanding. And we have engaged key stakeholders. There's been many meetings with private early childhood providers from around Saline. And we have engaged with SCA on GSRP staffing and appropriate placement within the contract. And so we're doing a lot of work with our partners. We also have been seeking professional learning beyond just the county offerings. So we had a couple of teachers and core team members and an early childhood program specialist that just last week attended a conference to look at best practices within not only early childhood, but in community and parental engagement. And so what does all this mean? It means that we are getting ready to continue to share data and to develop with our staff, with our administrators, and with you all what we need to do. One of the recommendations is a centralized early childhood center. We have data to suggest that young families are moving to Saline at a rapid rate. Housing permits have almost doubled within the last 3 years. New housing, that is data as of a couple of months ago, so we know that it can also change. Starter homes are selling rapidly. Families also have the income and demand for early childhood, and so that is important to kind of keep in mind that we have a diverse community, and not only do we have the demand for it for potentially paid early childhood programs, but we also, of course, have the amazing opportunities with the Great Start Readiness Program. Right now, preschool in Saline is the only grade where our private enrollment exceeds public enrollment, and so we'd like to balance that a little bit more, not necessarily have 100% public enrollment, but we'd like to see that balance a bit more like other communities, and we just really want an opportunity to connect our lower elementaries with our families, 0 to 5. So those are some things that we're thinking about. And it is an incomplete project and open to feedback and from stakeholders. We recently had a survey as well that went out. I actually forgot to put the picture on here. So we encourage you to go to our website and social media page if you're a family in Saline and fill that out. And last, I'll end with strategic planning. While we have worked really hard in the last 2 identified priorities, this one is still moving along. It doesn't seem like it is as fast, but that's okay because we continue to get feedback and in iterative design of what our strategic plan could look like. But as you know, from August until now, we've had a lot of listening and learning phases of that. So we've had several staff and community sessions. We have worked with partners and some of our committees throughout Saline area schools. For the winter, I would say a lot of this was direction setting and beginning to draft some very, very, very initial goals from data and administrative retreats, etc. We also had the formation of the board committee in January, which will meet for the first time in a couple of weeks here. And so again, we'll continue working with the board committee and our staff, our partners, to begin to develop the framework and refinement of goals. And we are hoping to still bring you a draft strategic plan this summer. And so those next steps are outlined here as well. And I put revised timeline because we thought we might be headed towards a May or June adoption of a strategic plan, but I think it's really important to make sure that we have all the voices heard and provide the right time and we move at the right speed that makes sense for us. So we are still hoping to move along a timeline the next few months and look forward to our first board committee meeting soon to talk deeper about this. And that is my superintendent update for tonight. Just want to update you on work since November.
Student representative.
So it's going to be a little bit of a longer one tonight. I reached out to all of the school's principals and was like, hey, give me some updates. Give me some cool things that are happening. Almost all of the schools got back to me, which is super duper exciting. From Saline High School, because I am there. The yearbook squad finally finished their book. So the physical book is now sent to our producers and is being produced. We are now starting to work on next year's yearbook. We're starting to plan out that theme. And the spring supplement, once spring sports tryouts are done, we're going to be back into that. On the topic of spring sports, they have officially started. Track started on Monday, so my legs are quite sore because I wasn't ready, but that's okay. Just an update with more people having their driver's licenses now. Just a reminder to drive safely. I now live in terror of the parking lot. I sit in the building now for 20 minutes until the parking lot clears out because it's a little bit scary. For all the new drivers, just stay vigilant and make sure you look both ways, please and thank you. Especially those who are also crossing the parking lot to get to their cars. Just be careful and watch for people trying to get out as fast as possible. And on a more positive note, I went to the opening night of Little Dolly, and it was stellar. It was fantastic. I absolutely adored it, and if I could go back, I would. And on the topic of theater, the spring show this year is now student-directed and student-led, which is super duper exciting, and I encourage you all to go out and watch it. It's going to be a straight play, but it's still really, really cool, and there's going to be a ton of talent out there. Moving on to Pleasant Ridge. March is reading month, and their reading theme is Reading Will Take You Places. And at the end of the month, they're having a reading festival with a author coming to visit. There's also an upcoming spring concert, and the performers are getting very excited to perform for their families. Woodland Meadows, last week they celebrated the Red Glasses movement. The students were told to live boldly, love big, and to pass it along. For them as well, March's reading month is going strong with world travels, and they also had a good books and bingo night. At the Saline Middle School, there will be a community meeting held on the 18th, and they will be awarding the next 6 A's awards, which is attendance, academics, athletics, acts of kindness, attitude, and arts. And arts is both physically art and the performing arts. And additionally, students are invited to participate in a Genius Hour, which is a passion-driven research project. As well, they had a lot happening. Students were also offered an opportunity to work for a food locker and a toy drive for Mott's Children's Hospital. Heritage, their literacy night and spring book fair is this Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. No jokes there intended. They are reading Otter by Christian Applegate, and their unified basketball team is going to the Little Caesars Arena to compete this Friday. And next week's March's Reading Month activities are also coupled with Inclusion Week. And that is all the updates that I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Jillian. Board updates, committee updates, anybody have anything? Like, oh. Go ahead.
I'll go ahead and start. The policy committee is continuing work on the new policy framework. Thank you to Dr. Kowalski and all her working groups. Next week, we will be finalizing the first 2 sections and reviewing a number of sections that Dr. Kowalski's teams are putting together for us. We are still on schedule for everything with everything that's gone on in the district. So thank you to everybody that has contributed. And that is it.
I can give an update on the athletic committee. We held our first meeting this morning, and one thing that I was really struck by, it was a very engaging, very open dialogue with all the stakeholders involved. It was athletic director Ashley Mantha, assistant athletic director Jeff Pike, Superintendent Dr. Kowalski, myself, and Trustee Stebbin and Miranda were there. And it was a very engaging session. What we basically covered, we opened it up with just kind of discussing the overview of the athletic committee. Then we discussed athletic director Mantha and assistant athletic Pike discussed the changes in the SEC and the KLLA. A lot of people may not be aware of all the happenings with that, but I was pretty impressed with the amount of work that went on behind the scenes that probably nobody has recognized with the results of all that hard work. Then we discussed the overview of the current athletics and community education structure and progress towards potential recommendations. And to borrow some words from Dr. Kowalski, first, experiences matter. And I think it's one theme that can come about is that we want to bridge this gap between the middle school and the high school. And if we can resolve some of those structural issues, there's a lot of upside with those opportunities. And then we finished with brainstorming with the handbook revisions and discussed some of the opportunities there. Thought it was a really productive meeting. Look forward to working with the stakeholders in our next meeting in March.
Happy to. The Finance Committee, after discussion with Superintendent Kowalski and Assistant Superintendent Owsley, we decided to postpone the meeting until the second Tuesday in April. And I do have one quick note about the Washtenaw Association of School Boards. On Thursday this week, we are having our learning session. Focuses, it starts from 6:30 to 8:30, 6:30 to 7 is a meet and greet and a little dinner. The learning session will cover artificial intelligence and specifically address the role of school boards. And we're having Ken Durkin, he's a senior director at Michigan Virtual Learning Research Institute, and Justin Bruno, director of AI Strategy and Innovation at Oakland Schools. And the topics included will cover key uses of AI in school districts, AI policies, and when we need a policy around student use of AI, risk to school district around AI, and key issues to consider. And I would urge you all to consider going. I've resent the invitation in case you missed it to register for that evening. Again, it's Thursday evening this week, and we're looking forward to seeing some of us here. I'll certainly be there.
I'll go, I guess, real quick. So the chamber, the 16th of this month is the last day to nominate anybody for the Circle of Excellence. So organization or somebody that might want to, that you might want to nominate for that, you can go to their website and nominate them. Also, the late lunch Tuesday will be on March 31st at 1 o'clock to 2:30 at the Station 300. And then I did also enjoy some time. I was a shark on the 3rd, I believe it was, that you guys were at. Yeah, that was the first time I've ever done that, and that was a lot of fun. And then also the connecting group, we went to that too, and that was a lot of fun as well. So it was nice to engage with some of the students and see what, I mean, they come up with some good ideas. So it's pretty neat.
All right, I have a few things since the last meeting. So I got to attend my first DEIAC meeting. In all these years, I've never been on that committee. And so I really enjoyed going and meeting the members and supporting that work. I get to go again this month, I think, before Darcy takes that over permanently. So I appreciate being given the opportunity to support them. We talked a little bit about partnering with other committees, so I was able to support that conversation and give them some ideas and talk a little bit about a couple of other board committees. Rachel did a presentation, so I was able to support some of the statements that she made, and we went through an exercise about prioritizing equity standards. So I listened in to group number 1, which was structures, systems, policies, and practices, since I sit on the policy committee. So I was able to listen to their discussions, and I look forward to seeing them again soon. Today was also our Foundation for Saline Area Schools meeting. Nate came, so Nate is the other supporting member for the foundation. So he got to introduce himself and meet that fine group of folks. We brought in $88,000 top line revenue from the Dueling Pianos fundraiser, so that was great. Everyone talked about Sarah Stuckey's talk that was supposed to be 3 to 5 minutes, and she said, yeah, I'm not going to do that. And I think she talked for about 15 to 20, got I think a standing ovation and raised a lot of money. So we appreciate her. Come back next year, Sarah. They again said the dates of the open houses. So just for the team, because I know I'm going to try to at least stop by a couple. May 6th is Woodland Meadows. May 13th is Pleasant Ridge. May 20th is Harvest. As of this morning, there was $30,000 left in grant money for this year for buildings and staff to apply, but they said they voted yes on about 3,000, so it's maybe about 27,000. And then looking forward, our fall luncheon and fundraiser, the next big activity for fundraising will be on October 29th, potentially here or the high school, and everyone will be invited, community, board, so hope to see you there. Nate talked a little bit about the athletics committee, so I won't say anything that he already said, except I do want to just +1 to it being a collaborative environment. So I'm very glad to support athletics as both a parent and a board member on that committee. I think Jason has the handout from the committee meeting today, if you want to pass it down here so everybody can see the new structure for the SEC. I thought you guys might be interested. So there's that. And I've been busy. Tim mentioned the Shark Tank. We did the senior capstone together, which was excellent. Continued on with a couple other Shark Tanks and got to be a judge at DECA over the weekend, which was great. I did international business plan and leadership and teamwork, and I just talked to Kara, so she checked in on my experience, and I will be going back as a judge next year, so maybe some others can participate, and community members too. They really need people to judge these presentations. It's in Detroit. I have the dates. I can send them to you. And I'm headed to Grand Rapids with our Business Professionals of America this Thursday night. We'll be there through Sunday, and it's states for that organization. So I'm very excited to be a chaperone for that and proud parent of one of the participants. So thank you very much.
I don't have any committee work to add, so.
Okay, thanks. So move on to action items. Can I have a recommended motion to adopt the proposed 25-26 general fund budget amendment as submitted by Assistant Superintendent Miranda Owsley?
So moved, McVeigh.
Okay.
Support, Stebbin.
Good evening. Just wanted to kind of frame this amendment. The last time we approved the original budget, I want to roll us all the way back to June, and we're kind of sitting on this time frame. The state had not settled their budget, even though they commit to that June date. We rolled way into October before we had those kinds of things settled. So, we also went through all of the staffing regular parts of the summer and getting into the school year. So in addition to that, the ongoing negotiations with our three groups that has happened since then, we kind of going through all of our line items. So this is kind of a holistic looking at all the things in our experience data throughout our different funds. So the changes that got pulled out, and just kind of go through some of those and some of the important details. We know that in the local sources versus the state sources, when our taxes increase, the state kind of decreases. And at that point in time too, we update pupil count and the state level, the per pupil funding. Another thing to note is you guys approved in July our bank account structure, in which we were able to utilize our fund balance and invest that, and you see our very large increase to our interest revenue. So that is a changed about 4 to 5 years ago, when we were seeing an expense of having to borrow money for our cash flow. Now we hold our own cash flow. We do not need to borrow, and as well as we are making interest on those funds. So that is a significant move. And then I'll also note we had quite a few insurance claims, so a lot of times that's not very always evident in our expenses down below, but in revenues, that those are offsetting kind of things as we collect those insurance claims for some of those things we have throughout the year. As we roll down, one of the other things in the intermediate, our Act 18 special ed dollars, we notice that that's decreasing. It's kind of we have a interesting model where we get some funding in the year, some from the prior year, and then it also plays in effect when we get special ed money. If you see on the state side, we have an increase in special ed funding there, so that also plays into the model of how that gets funded. So one goes up and the other does go down, and so there's some of those things that are playing into effect there. As well as we see that a lot of the state revenue that we saw that increase kind of goes to restricted grants. You'll see that the UAL, that ORS 147C, is on both sides of the revenue and the expenditure, so it's kind of a net zero change, but I like to pull those out because it's still $991,000 of a shift, and so it kind of shows that shift is going in both sides of that. And then also just different grants that are hitting our general fund there's expenditures on the other side that match those grants, and so those are net zero changes as well. And then also with the federal revenue, we are pulling in some one-time kind of funds for our Filter First grants and the electric buses. We approved buses quite a few years ago. It took that long for the buses to get here. We expect them to be here shortly, and those expenses hit in this year. So it's a little bit of a delayed time from when you approved the actual action item that we went out to do that. These funds are rolling through. It's the bus itself was a part of a federal grant and a state grant to put that together for that. Normally buses we see is a lot of times a bond purchase in the bond funds. This one has to go in general funds so that we can utilize those grant funding that we have for them. As we roll down into expenses, there's a lot of different pieces that we kind of look to as amendment time. It took quite a long time for the state stuff to roll in due to the lack thereof getting it on time. Kind of plays out that delay in how we see how our funding is going to flow to us. And then, as well as, like I said, we're going through 3 contract negotiations, and so seeing those flow into our payroll, and then seeing the experience data that we're seeing on all of those, as well as open enrollment, changes all of our healthcare insurance costs as well. You'll also note in the benefits side of things, this is an opportunity where I took the time to go through and at the very beginning of the year, we used a lot of rates that are for our ORS is very varied throughout our whole general ledger for our salary accounts. I did update those to experience numbers, so actual what our general fund is seeing in an experience. So that's why that decrease is there. The beginning of the year, I'm using round numbers to kind of put that throughout our budget. And here we are actually taking the data of the live time people's rates that we're actually experiencing those line items. So that's kind of something that sometimes I'm not able to do at this time of year, and I do at year end. So that is one of those things that we see, even though the net change to the bottom line is decreasing, there's some offsets there that I was able to take in those experience rates currently to do that. As many see in your personal lives, we saw an increase in electricity, natural gas. Those are things that across all of our buildings that we saw those increases, and that kind of rolls into the breakdown here. But if you look at the overall and how it's broken down into those categories, that all rolls into maintenance and operations, as well as a lot of times the insurance claims also end up in those categories. So if we think about we had to improve some buildings because of some things we had this fall, those would a lot of times be in there in the purchase services for the organizations that came in and helped us do some of that work. The other piece is that capital outlay. Those are in general, the bus made a big shift in our general fund. Like I said, we don't normally use our general fund to buy buses, but again, that is an offsetting revenue on the top as well, so it's kind of not zero for there. And I think that was most of my points. If you guys had any questions, happy to answer those.
Thank you for proactively mentioning a few things, because that's good to know. I was going to ask about that. Can you just remind me what added needs is? Like, what would be included in that particular line item under basic program?
Yeah, so our added needs, think of our resource rooms, our para or support, as well as it's kind of splits out our high school and our CTE programs. So part of it is general ed, and then the CTE part of those teachers' day falls into those added needs as well as a lot of interventions. So in general, think our MTSS programming, EL work, a lot of different things in our title grants and things like that as well. Yep. And pupil supports below that kind of gets into a lot more of the counselors, OT, PTs, nurses, psychs, social work, teacher consultants. A lot of those things are in that very next line. So a lot of things special ed related and intervention-ish as well.
And this question might involve Rex, Clary, as well. You mentioned the increase in utility costs. Are we seeing benefits from the solar panels?
We're working on that data. You know, we have had some recall things, so we're actually working on getting those replaced and things like that. So there has been some temporary hiatus of that, and so it's kind of that we need to see some longer term data to actually be able to evaluate that really well. So don't really have a quite a good answer. I feel like this time next year we should hope to have a better answer for you.
No. Thank you, Miranda. All in favor? Let's give my aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries 7-0. Thanks, Miranda. Can I have a recommended motion to approve the closed session minutes February 24th, 2026 related to the purchase or lease of property acquisition in accordance with the Open Meetings Act 8D?
So moved. Oh, Jason, go ahead and I'll support.
Okay. Motion to
Support 7.
Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries 7-0. Can I have a recommended motion to approve the request to purchase the 1,800 iPads for staff and students, 350 Chromebooks, and 350 Omen laptops for the C204 computer lab at Saline High School, and 2 Cisco 3110 NGFW firewalls to replace the existing units in the district in the amount of $917,603.58 as submitted by Jay Grossman, Director of Technology. Cost breakdown is as follows. The 1,800 iPads and cases is $668,115, 350 Chromebooks, laptops, $94,367, 35 Omen laptops, $57,050, 2 Cisco 3110 NG-FW firewalls, $98,071.58, totaling the $917,603.58.
Berwick?
Support McVeigh.
Hi. So, thank you all. Today I'm here to request the purchase of everything that was just listed and getting ready for our summer change that we go through every year. This particular summer we're faced with the fact that a number of our devices were purchased over 5 years ago, some of them 15 years ago in the case of one of our firewalls. And so as part of this and as a part of our replacement approach, I'm here today to ask about making the purchases to replace those because they are at their end of life and they're up for the replacement cycle. So we have prepared 2 short slides just to go over sort of the thought behind our process and our thinking as far as the research that we've been working on over these past years regarding technology in the classroom. So I have Jen Nelson here to help me as well on behalf of Kara, because they've been a big part of the research from the instructional design team as far as the why we're doing this. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about the what we're doing, and then she can help clarify some of the whys. And then if you guys have any questions, obviously, we're here. I did write really long blurbs in my actual request. I don't want to spend the time going over that because I know you guys have already seen as far as like everything we've done as far as bidding, going out for those purchases, have gone through the normal processes. But really what it comes down to is in our district, we have a planned replacement cycle. Every 5 years or so, the recommended time frame of device is actually shortened to about 3 to 4 years. We extend ours to about 5 years. So about every 5 years or so, I need to come up here and ask to see about replacing our devices. Technology, as you know, has a finite life cycle. At a certain point, the manufacturers stop supporting them. They will stop doing updates. They stop doing security patches. When they stop doing security patches for things, especially like our firewalls, that invites vulnerabilities into our district that, you know, bring on things that we don't ever want to have to deal with. So we want to make sure that we're staying up to date with our software and our hardware so that it can continue to get these patches, these software updates, make sure that we're staying protected from malicious actors. We need to support our operating systems, and a lot of that is because the manufacturers, again, just stop doing updates for these, and so they start falling behind. They stop running certain programs, and they're designed that even if they still power on and you can run some old stuff, you're not able to run the latest, you're not able to run the secure versions of it. And so we need to keep that in mind and address this in a way that we can, you know, equitably replace all of these devices. Again, it just happens to be this year that there's a lot of devices that we purchased in the past that have now hit that 5-year point, so we're looking to start replacing them. Additionally, as I was up here just last year around this time, we are now in the 2nd year of my phasing out of the BYOD program, where each year we're going to be purchasing Chromebooks for the 3rd grade with the intent that those devices are going to roll up with those students every year for 5 years. And then when those devices are 5 years old, we're going to replace them when they get to 8th grade with the understanding that they would have that device 8th through 12th. So this year we'll be replaced. The Chromebook ask is to replace the incoming 3rd graders with new Chromebooks so that the students who are going to 4th grade will be promoted and take those devices with them. These do allow the district to maintain security, ensure equitable access, make sure our devices are aligning with the instructional needs across the grade levels. We have done a lot of research and feedback from the teachers who are using these devices. Some of the changes we are making this year are the elimination or reduction of iPads in the lower classes. So the Young 5 students no longer speaking with their teachers, they don't use the iPads. There's not a need for them, so we're not replacing those devices. Kindergarten use them far less, and they use them in smaller need scenarios. So we are reducing the number of devices for kindergarten. We're cutting that in half, and then we're still staying 1-to-1 for iPads in 1st and 2nd grade, which is where a lot of the current devices are coming from. But additionally, I'm taking this opportunity this year to replace the entire district. So we're talking AAC devices for special needs students who need them for talkers, other devices that the devices that teachers have, other devices that have been out in the district for things like athletics. Everything that's out there, we want to replace it this year and just get everything on the same model. Some of these devices are approaching 10 years old, and so we want to get them off our district. We're going to either resell them, recycle them, give them to other districts that might be in need and could use some of these devices that still have some life in them, even if they don't work for us. So as far as some of the decision making, I'll let Jen talk to some of the research we've been doing with our technology guidelines.
Hi everyone. So Jay highlighted the 2 changes that are incorporated in this purchase, the continuation of the BYOD, but also reducing the iPad use, the iPad purchases in our Young Fives and kindergarten classrooms. And so representing the teaching and learning team tonight, we just wanted to reiterate that these decisions are made to support teaching and learning. They don't drive teaching and learning. And our teaching and learning team for several years has been really paying attention to the research coming out about technology usage at our earliest grades. And our team started doing lots of reading and discussing. We brought in teachers in K2 in the last school year. And through that collaboration, we created a technology usage guideline in K2 of kind of what does it look like, what is appropriate amount of time in that grade level, what are the kinds of things that we'd like to see kids doing on devices in those ages. And we slow rolled that a little bit this year by just making it available, showed it to teachers. In doing that, we've collected some more feedback with a goal of rolling that out more clearly next school year. So representing the teaching and learning team about the decisions there if there's any questions.
Any questions? No? Okay.
I would just like to thank the teaching and learning team. You may recall that I was somewhat astounded by that in the past, and I probably look at some but not all of the same research. So thank you for those efforts and being responsive.
If I could add on to that, when you brought that up last year or whenever it was, there was a discussion from Jen and company about the EdTech triangle. And I've been really pushing that with my students in training, and I'm hoping that you'll get a lot more in the future who show up at your doorstep who know what the EdTech triangle is, and it's a really good tool. I have a question for Jay. 2 questions. You ready, Jay?
I'm ready.
So
Always.
I may have missed this earlier, but the insurance on the Apple products, do we use Apple Care or a third party, or do we have a different insurance?
Good
Because that's
question.
1,800 is a lot of
It is.
machines with a lot of fingers on them.
So we do not pay for Apple Care. It's hard to get through the bond because it's an insurance program, and so that money would have to come out of general fund. But also in preparation for this, some of these 1,800 are for more of a self-insurance program. And then if we do a device buyback, which we've been considering, any money from that raised from that would also go into a pot for covering screen breakage, things like that as we go through. Over the past 5 years, as we've gone through these last batch of iPads, I would say it's less than 5% of our iPads that have actually been broken, other than like a headphone jack where that's broken in there, and the new generation of iPads don't have headphone jacks, so that problem solved itself. So for the most part, we were getting very good protective cases, and I feel that we should be able to self-insure.
Appreciate that. The student mobile device use guidelines was set up in August 2025. Of course, that predated House Bill 4141, which I think it's been signed in by the governor, about cell phones in the classrooms. Is this a document you are going to be updating, my first glance through it is that I don't think there's probably much that needs to be changed, from what I can tell.
Yeah.
So
Who's working on that?
Volunteered.
The technology guidelines that I think you're referring to as our secondary ones for high school, and those were created, they've been in play probably 3 years now. So we will definitely need to look at those with the changes coming from the state, but we think that what we have is like a solid start that we can build off of for sure. The technology guidelines that I was referring to K2 are the new ones, and those are both linked in your presentation.
The other link was to the
Yep.
mobile use guidelines.
Yep.
Great, well, I'm glad you're on it. Thank you so much.
I just wanted to add to that will be reflective then of the policy committee change, the policy changes and those that are brought to the board, and then our team will take those and develop them.
I just wanted to express my appreciation, much like Lauren, with the reflection back on technology and use in the younger grades. And I trust that you will continue to be reflective in that, so thank you. I also did want to comment that I appreciated the lens of equity in this with making sure that all students have devices. When you provide that equipment for everyone has that opportunity to be successful. So thank you in that. And then as far as the purchase, is there funding for the AAC devices different, or is it all under, is there any special ed funding for the AAC?
In the past, we have used special ed on as an as needed basis if we've sort of kept them in separate pots. But because these devices are getting so old, I wanted to take this opportunity now, and it's all coming from Saline. So taking the opportunity to just get everybody on the same playing field and set us all up at this point.
That's great. Working with a special ed population, those kids need that access to that technology, and their growth is reflected in their access with it. So thank you.
Sure.
I just wanted to say thank you for being very responsive to questions when they come up.
Happy to help.
Thank you. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Recommended motion to approve the recommended companies to provide and install furniture at Saline Middle School STEM Center in June of 2026, as submitted by Rex Clary, Executive Director of Operations. The total purchase amount is $290,510.08 and is broken down as follows. Due EL Corporation, $2,204.66. Great Lakes Furniture Supply, $82,651.45. KI, $112,011.28. KI Installation Interior Environments Sources, $7,925. Interior Environment Sources, $9,188. ISCG Interior Systems Contract Group, $19,181.88. NBS, $43,514, and a 5% contingency of $13,833.81 is your total $290,510.08.
Chair Berwick.
Support, Stebbin.
Thanks.
A few vendors. First off, a lot of thanks to Kara Davis and working with Dana McClellan of King Scott. Dana McClellan is a Saline parent, and she works for King Scott Architects, but this project was over budget. They were able to get down under budget, so kudos to Kara working through that, working with different vendors, not just going with one vendor, picking the piece that's going to be best for our students, and that's cost effective as well. So with this purchase, this is the last furniture for the multimedia, the innovations in STEAM, robotics, and Science Olympiad workshops. As we're starting to wrap up glass installation, the senior center and cosmetology will be pretty much finished by mid to late April. And we hope to get a dedication or a grand opening for the seniors sometime in late April when they receive their furniture package as well. So This will ensure a delivery of late June, early July, ensuring that we'll be ready to start the school year in August with all of our pieces in place and ready to go. Any questions?
Just as I was scrolling through the packet and looking at the different bids for the technology and the STEAM Center, is it possible to break down the different amounts? Like it says you're buying chairs. How many chairs? Things like that.
Yeah. Yep. There are proposals that can be attached. I can email you those proposals. Each one of these has a breakdown of the 9 providers, right? 9 vendors.
Yep.
That could have been in your board packet. That just would have made the board packet a little bit longer. But yes, I can send those to you.
Great. Thanks.
Yep.
Do you think before we go back to school, maybe over here, do you think before we go back to school, maybe like before a board meeting, we could have a little field trip and see the beautiful new space before the kids come back? And then maybe it's on a night that we're all here and we can go over there and then come here?
Definitely.
When you're ready?
Yep.
Thanks.
We can go to the STEAM Center in we can go to the Senior Center in Cosmetology this next week, or we can go sometime this summer to look at the new facilities. So.
Yeah, we can coordinate that for sure.
Yep.
Okay, any more questions? All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we'll have our SEAB public hearing number 2, the high school sex ed curriculum update with Cameron Cochran and Kristen Hoffman-Peeler.
Yeah, it's Green Day. Yeah. Remember that band from the 90s?
All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you again for the opportunity to present to you all. This is our second installment or second public hearing for our adolescent health update at the high school. For those of us familiar with our earlier work, we were here last year for 4th through 8th grade. We are in the end of our 3-year term for our Sex Ed Advisory Board with this current iteration for this committee, and I'd be remiss without giving a shout out to the committee members who have spent the last 3 years working really hard and collaborating, having some difficult conversations, but really exemplifying that bridge to civility that has been developed in the district, and having those difficult conversations in a way that is respectful and honoring all voices. I'm also wanted to be mindful of the work from Dr. Gold and former trustee Estep, who have provided their time and efforts in supporting us too. So thank you very much for that. And we will be looking for a new committee starting towards the end of this spring and early summer. We'll be looking for community members to identify to support our work going forward. And sadly or not, this will likely be the last time that I stand in front of you delivering anatomical diagrams for at least the foreseeable future. So. Without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Kristen.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kristen Hoffman-Peeler, and I'm back again for round 2, or 6, if you're counting over the long haul. I have to apologize in advance. I'm going to be drinking water and coughing, hopefully off microphone. I got the crud that everybody's getting, and I feel so lucky, right? We are here again to talk through what we have currently at the high school for sex education in Saline. We're going to talk about why it's time for an update. We're going to talk about the needs of our 21st century students and the whys behind all of it. Here is an outline of our current high school curriculum. It's an amalgamation of information and activities largely taken from the Michigan model that in and around 2007. The current curriculum is taught over a 2-week period, or 10 class days. And over the last few years, our high school health teachers have been sifting through this curriculum and deciding what works, what doesn't, and what is just wholly out of date. The overarching theme of that work is that this curriculum is old, feels old, and doesn't address the needs of students who are living in and navigating interpersonal relationships in a digital age. Did you know that 8.4% of teens ages 14 through 17 use porn as their primary source for how to have sex? That percentage jumps to 24.5% in the 18 to 24 age bracket. It is imperative that we help kids make safe choices by giving them useful and accurate information to guide them so they don't rely on porn and other internet sources for learning. Today's students need comprehensive, evidence-based, and inclusive curriculum in order to provide them with timely and accurate sex ed information before they become sexually active. Myriad studies show that the sooner we start developmentally appropriate sex ed education and teaching, both at home and at school, the safer kids are and remain for longer. In November 2025, Michigan updated the health education standards, which includes sex education and all other parts of health and wellness. Saline area schools did a survey in 2023, the most recent one, of stakeholders, of students, staff, and caregivers to identify the community's thoughts around sex ed teaching and learning, and we will review some of those highlights in a future slide. It's clear that our curriculum is old. Saline area schools is committed to best practices in education, and our sex ed curriculum should align with that mission. So let's look at some data. Washtenaw County participates in the MyFi Health Behavior Survey on odd school years. And you'll notice that this data shows a marked increase in sexual intercourse from 9th to 11th grade. This is a clear indicator that what we are currently teaching is not resonating with students or affecting change. Providing updated information and delivery systems should decrease these percentages. And it's important to note that of the 11 districts in Washtenaw County, only 6 participated in these years of the survey. The MyFi survey is the easiest way for our community and this committee in particular to track the trends in our community. And I would encourage our district to continue participation at the middle school and the high school level so that we can accurately assess our students' needs when it comes to health and safety. Now let's look at a little bit of national data. The chart that you're looking at is from the National Center for Health Statistics, and it breaks down by age the probability that a person has had vaginal intercourse. You can see that the probability increases at every age over the 2 time periods. Equally concerning is that the report tells us that reported condom use has decreased to less than 50% for females and to 68% of males. So more kids are having sex with less protection. And this is only vaginal sex. Oral sex rates are higher at 25 to 28% by the age of 16 and begins at a younger average age. So how do we help our kids? By acknowledging that sex will be a part of the human experience for most of us and giving our kids accurate information before the start of sexual activity. Saline Area Schools has long been committed to a comprehensive sex ed curriculum. So what does that mean? It means that we are teaching students that sexual health is a whole person commitment. It involves your body, mind, heart, and head. It aims to provide all the information you need to make safe and healthy decisions starting in puberty, through teenhood, and into adulthood. Does it include abstinence? Yes, absolutely. And it actually stresses abstinence as the only 100% effective method of prevention for sexual health and well-being. Does a comprehensive curriculum encourage a child to have sex? Actually, it's the opposite. For decades, studies have shown that giving kids more information makes them less likely to choose to be sexually active. And someday, when they do choose to have sex, they're more likely to protect themselves and their partners from STIs and pregnancy. I want to highlight this first link here that we noticed last time had been broken, and Dr. Kowalski very graciously sent the updated link. It is an annotated overview from the American Academy of Pediatrics of the need for comprehensive sex ed for school-age kids. And the other 2 links are 2 landmark longitudinal studies that support the link between comprehensive sex ed and decreased early sexual activity and safer choices when finally choosing to have sex. I'd like to review a portion of the K-12 Insight Survey that we presented last year, and the entire presentation is linked believe it's in the next slide. Yep. So we surveyed current caregivers, students, and staff in our district about sex ed scope and sequence. And across the board, all stakeholders want more information for students. They want all students included in the curriculum, including students from different cultures and LGBTQ+ students. And they want kids to learn about consent. It was concerning, actually, how many comments there were from students about sexual assault and dating violence, and the district data supports this anecdotal evidence. Here's a few quotes that we pulled from the student section. You can read them on your own. And the summary of sort of the umbrella of comments. And we have parent summaries. There's tons of overlap in each group. I always think it's nice as a parent of teenagers when your thoughts and feelings align with your teen thoughts and feelings. So that was one thing as a parent of teens that I took out of this. I was like, look, the parents and the kids, they want the same thing. I think that's great. And then the staff summary of comments was tighter. The parents had more to say, it looks like, but they were all pretty well overlapped. And this is where Cameron will take over. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kristen. So with the new curriculum, our team reviewed actually 4 different curricula at the start of this process for our target age group of 9th through 12th grade. We narrowed it down to 2 programs and then did a deep dive into those. And after significant discussion over multiple months and meetings, the SEAB voted unanimously to move the 3 R's, or Rights, Respect, Responsibility program, forward to the public hearing process. So what we appreciated about the Rights, Respect, Responsibility, there are actually many things. Specifically, though, we thought that it was well aligned with state and national sexual health education standards. The Michigan version of those standards were recently updated last year, and we'll talk about those a little bit more later on. We also felt that it was aligned with our policies, mission, and goals within the district. The program is evidence-informed, and it is comprehensive. It aligns with best practices in sexual health education as supported by the programs that Kristen mentioned earlier with those links from the American Academy of Pediatrics. Regularly reviewed every 2 years, so this program stays fresh. Obviously, any updates that we would propose as a committee would go through this process. And then it grows with our students each year using consistent language and methods of instruction. So the benefits of 3 R's, again, we appreciated the age-appropriate learning materials, the engaging instructional activities, emphasis on student safety and inclusion, as well as the alignment with the updated health education standards from the state of Michigan. We appreciated its emphasis on abstinence and its safe and healthy choices, encouraging communication with families, with parents and guardians, and then the inclusive language. We felt that that was important across the board, across the district, a focus on dignity, respect, and preventing harassment and bullying, not identity exploration or formation. This slide is a reminder that families have the right to review curricular materials, observe instruction, and or opt their students out of adolescent health altogether. It's important to point out, and we will remind folks of that at the end. All right, so in regards to the alignment, the Michigan Department of Education recently passed updated health education standards last year. The updated standards are available for public review, and we provided a link to the standards in the update that was sent to the board before our first public hearing. Within those updated standards, the MDE points to several key developments and shifts in the field of health education to support student success, including a stronger emphasis on practices and skills that promote healthy living, updates to reflect current and ever-changing technology, social media, and other influences on health and well-being for young people, updates to acknowledge that students are increasingly using media and technology to access information and services related to health and health care, and emphasize the importance of including media literacy as a component of health and well-being. a more deliberate integration of skills for personal safety, maintaining personal boundaries, and child sexual abuse prevention through a trauma-informed lens. And that's an important one that we'll talk about later on as well. As well as principles that promote a whole child approach to health education that includes not just the physical, but the social and emotional well-being of students. So another item that was included in that original packet that was sent to the board before our first public hearing was a crosswalk document. In the updated MDE guidelines, they note 6 practices for comprehensive health education. And these practices support the development of skills that students need throughout life and are reinforced and applied across disciplines and settings. This approach is evidence-based and aligns with best practices outlined in the characteristics of an effective health education curriculum from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the essential components of health education from the Society of Health and Physical Educators. The practices closely align with the skills in the National Health Education Standards as well. So the crosswalk document highlights which lessons have connections to each of the 6 practices. And as you can see, most lessons incorporate more than one of the 6 practices. Here are the first 3 of those 6 practices here, and you can see on the right-hand side the lessons that cover one of those practices or more. Here are practices 4 and 5. I would encourage folks that are interested to pause the recording and view these at this time. And here's that 6th practice. So during the curriculum review, the SEAB worked closely with the Family and Consumer Science teacher team at the high school, particularly Mrs. Lauren Williams, who serves on the committee and offered insight throughout the process. So thank you to Mrs. Williams and her team. The teachers appreciated the updates for a variety of reasons, including how user-friendly the lesson plan format was. Each lesson includes the following. You can see those components on that first page, and there will be an image on the next slide. But the alignment with Michigan Health Education Standards, as well as the NSES alignment, those are the national standards, an appropriate or approximate time and materials needed, learning objectives for each lesson, the lesson rationale, when students ask, why are we covering this today, the procedure for teachers, and then a reminder of inclusive language. Here's just one example from one lesson, image overload. That's the first page of that lesson, and you can see how well formatted that is for a teacher to glance through that and prepare to deliver that content to their students. So one of the few downsides, only downsides that the committee identified with the curriculum was the proposed order of the lessons. The committee and the FCS teachers worked to create a proposed scope and sequence so that there was a logical flow to the curriculum. The proposed curriculum would be covered over the course of approximately 11 days, and some of the lessons would be combined into one day due to the similarity of content. We will now provide an overview of each lesson. So for lesson 1A, sexual and reproductive anatomy, the committee felt strongly that there was a need for an anatomical review at the start of the unit. Most students will have not seen that since 6th grade. So providing common language and norms is essential in any classroom, and a health room is no different. The lesson includes a modeling activity where students are asked to create reproductive representations of reproductive anatomy in small groups using art supplies. And while this activity, and maybe others like it in the unit, have the potential for some uncomfortable laughter from students, with adolescent health, it's important to get comfortable with discomfort in order to engage meaningfully. In the second part of that day, lesson 1B, Trust It or Trash It, students learn how to evaluate the credibility of health information, especially online sources. The lesson strengthens critical thinking and digital literacy skills that can be applied obviously in other courses and throughout life. This benefits students by helping them make informed decisions and avoid misinformation in an era of widespread online content. The second lesson, second day, is a lesson on sexual orientation, behavior, and identity. This lesson helps students understand the distinctions between sexual orientation, behavior, and identity in a factual and respectful manner. The goal is not to influence beliefs, but to foster understanding, reduce bullying, and promote a safe school environment for all students. By emphasizing respect and inclusivity, The lesson supports student social emotional development and reinforces the district's commitment to ensuring that every student feels safe, valued, and able to learn. These next few slides show screenshots of various resources from the first few lessons. The anatomical images will be presented to students with handouts of the images, and students would be expected to label the handouts using a word bank. And these are the same slides that were shared in the first hearing. Here's an example slide from the Trust It or Trash It lesson, where you're looking at reliability of content, the content's currency, and its accuracy. Again, giving students the tools to evaluate resources. Here are some definitions from the sexual orientation lesson. Again, these definitions are quick and relatively simple and framed in terms of student safety and respect. Here's a teacher's guide from the lesson on sexual orientation that includes yellow flag and red flag language for teachers to help disrupt any sort of inappropriate, however intended or unintended that might be from students when comments might be made, so that teachers can use those opportunities as teachable moments rather than just brushing past that. I think we felt that that was really helpful and appropriate. All right, so for the third lesson, or third day, lesson 3A on understanding gender. This lesson introduces students to the concept of gender as it relates to identity, expression, and societal expectations using age-appropriate language and discussion. Instruction is grounded in respect and empathy, helping students understand diverse experiences while reinforcing that everyone deserves dignity and safety. By addressing gender thoughtfully and inclusively, the lesson supports bullying prevention, mental health, and a positive school climate. Key priorities for student well-being. Note that the video and accompanying homework assignment are not included in the materials. This is how gender is defined in lesson 3A. This is just the script from the teacher's lesson plan. If you were to look in the mirror and see your body, what you see in the mirror, what we just discussed, is part of your biological sex. If you were to close your eyes, how you see yourself based on those body parts is your gender identity. In most cases, how people feel when they close their eyes matches what they see in the mirror. This is called being cisgender. You might commonly hear people refer to just being male or female, but the correct term is cisgender. Okay, so for lesson 3B, image overload. This lesson examines how media and digital images influence beliefs about body image, relationships, and self-worth. Students analyze media messages and practice critical thinking skills to challenge unrealistic or harmful portrayals. And if you've ever scrolled through any sort of social media feed, you'll understand how important a conversation like this is to have with young people. The lesson benefits students by fostering media literacy, resilience, and healthier self-perceptions in a highly digital world. In lesson 4, decisions. Students learn a structured decision-making process and apply it to real-life scenarios involving personal values and consequences. The lesson emphasizes personal responsibility, reflection, and evaluating short and long-term outcomes. This supports students' ability to make thoughtful, informed choices that align with their goals and values. Here are again some screenshots of various resources from lessons 3A, 3B, and 4. This worksheet allows students to kind of reflect on the influences that take shape of who we are and influence who we are. Here's a resource that the FCS teachers felt like it was important to keep that's currently being used in class. We'll highlight those resources towards the end of the presentation as well. Okay, so lesson 5A, how well do I communicate with others? Again, this is the 5th day. This lesson helps students build effective communication skills by exploring how verbal and nonverbal messages affect relationships. Students practice active listening, assertive communication, and respectful expression of needs and feelings. The lesson benefits students by strengthening interpersonal skills that support healthy relationships, conflict resolution, and positive school interactions. The second part of that day would be the lesson on my boundaries. Again, highly connected from the first part of that day. Students explore personal boundaries, consent, and respectful interactions. This lesson builds skills in recognizing, communicating, and respecting boundaries in various relationships using scenarios. This instruction supports safer school environments and reinforces mutual respect and personal autonomy. On the 6th day, we get into conversations around sexually transmitted infections. This lesson, 6A, STI Basics, introduces students to common STIs, including transmission, symptoms, and treatment. Emphasis during these conversations is placed on accurate information and correcting myths. By increasing knowledge and reducing misinformation, the lesson supports student health, responsible choices, and informed conversations with healthcare providers. The second part of that day, getting savvy about STI testing, students explore the purpose, process, and importance of STI testing, including how and where testing can occur. The lesson reduces stigma, increases health and literacy, and encourages proactive healthcare behaviors. This benefits students by normalizing preventative care and supporting lifelong health management. Here are some slides, including a worksheet and practice scenarios related to personal boundaries from those previous lessons that were just discussed. Note that we're not screening any of the videos during this presentation. All of those are listed on a slide towards the end of the presentation, and folks can find those on YouTube currently. Okay, home stretch. 7A, STI Smarts. Students build on prior STI knowledge by applying information to realistic scenarios and problem-solving activities. The lesson reinforces prevention strategies and personal responsibility. While a portion of this lesson incorporates an engaging Jeopardy-style trivia game, the general approach strengthens students' ability to use health knowledge in real-world situations rather than memorizing facts. The second half of that day, planning and protection, avoiding and managing STIs. This lesson begins with a transmission simulation activity and discussion to help students understand how STIs might be spread. The lesson provides medically accurate information about sexually transmitted infections, focusing on prevention and risk reduction strategies. Chief among those strategies being abstinence. Students also learn how planning, communication, and protective behaviors reduce health risks. The lesson supports public health goals by promoting informed decision-making and responsible behaviors. Lesson 8 on Know Your Options. This lesson helps students understand pregnancy options and the importance of informed, respectful decision-making. Michigan's safe surrender and adoption laws are discussed within this lesson. In accordance with Michigan law, abortion is not included in this lesson or anywhere else in the curriculum. Students learn about support systems and resources while emphasizing empathy. The lesson benefits students by promoting compassion, accurate information, and responsible planning. Note that the committee felt that the optional condom demonstration mentioned in this lesson would be a valuable experience for students, and that the committee recommends it be a teacher-led demonstration only, and that it should occur during Lesson 7B on planning and protection. Lesson 9, Healthy Living, Prevention and Treatment. This lesson focuses on HIV. Students learn about how a person living with HIV can remain healthy and maintain viral suppression. Students learn how responsible choices and early intervention support long-term well-being through the use of medication like PrEP and PEP. The lesson reinforces lifelong health skills that extend beyond adolescence while dispelling myths and stigma related to HIV. All right, our last 3 lessons. Lesson 10A, Rights, Respect, and Responsibility. So this foundational lesson introduces the core values of the 3 R's framework, helping students understand how rights, respect, and responsibility guide healthy relationships and decision-making. Students connect these principles to real-life situations. The lesson benefits students by reinforcing the importance of consent by engaging in scenarios and discussing the laws related to consent and sexual behavior in Michigan. And then unhealthy relationships, plan for safety. Students learn to identify characteristics of unhealthy and potentially abusive relationships and explore strategies for personal safety. As Kristen mentioned earlier, those statistics can be alarming. It's important to equip students with the skills and knowledge to prepare themselves and to advocate for themselves. The lesson emphasizes recognizing warning signs, understanding available supports, and developing a safety plan. This instruction promotes student well-being, empowers students to seek help when needed, and reinforces the district's commitment to student safety. And then lesson 11 on sex trafficking, awareness, and prevention. This lesson focuses on student safety by helping high school students recognize the warning signs of grooming and sex trafficking and understand how traffickers exploit vulnerabilities. Instruction is framed around prevention, personal safety, and knowing how to seek help for others or oneself. The lesson does not sensationalize content. Instead, it equips students with awareness skills, trusted resources, and strategies for staying safe, aligning with the district's responsibility to protect students and to promote informed decision-making. This was a concept that was scrapped from earlier grades just because we wanted to make sure that the students that were receiving this content were prepared and would take this content home. And we felt like it was important to maintain that here for our high school students. Here's a plan for safety template. While these resources are important, obviously what's important too is the content that students are receiving and the discussions that they're having in class with their teachers and at home with their trusted adults. As we mentioned, for the sake of time, we're not showing any of the videos. Here are the list of videos that would be shown. All of those can be found on either Google or YouTube. And then here's the list of resources that are currently being used by the Family and Consumer Science team. Those can be found on the district website. And Mrs. Williams had the following to note. As high school teachers, it is best practice to update and use current research, teaching methods, and inclusive language. The old materials were from 2007 or earlier. We need to update. We are looking forward to being able to give students a better understanding of reproductive health so they can make more informed decisions. We want to continue our partnership with families and focus on continuing the message they receive at home as a continuation into the classroom. The proposed curriculum also aligns more with the current and updated health standards that were passed last year from the state of Michigan. Once they were passed, we took extra time to consider how the proposed curriculum aligns. We did not rush this process, and we are hopeful that moving forward, we are giving our students the best education. I think it's important to end with teacher perspective, and thank you. Here's the reminder also for the parents' rights to review curriculum, opt students out, and observe instruction.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Darcy?
First, thank you to both of you for the presentations you've done and to all of the committee members who've done this work over the last 3 years. It's been a lot, and I really appreciate the work that you are doing. I just wanted to point out a couple of things. Earlier in the presentation and on the side, you had said that per Michigan law, you can opt out, and you had said altogether from sex ed. I also just wanted to highlight they can opt out from certain modules as well. So it's not an all or nothing health curriculum.
Yeah, so in our building, that is an option. I think that would be a conversation with the building administration team. I believe that would be possible.
Okay. And then, as I said the last time, I just wanted to make sure that if you come in to review this curriculum, but your child is taking an online health class, this is not that curriculum. So people just need to know that they're not getting this curriculum if they choose to do online sex ed. Thank you.
Thanks. Tim, just a quick one. I noticed on the list, the long list on your curriculum, there was parent homework at the top. I didn't have access to that, but what kind of homework are you making these poor parents had to do?
So the homework is really meant to be kind of discussion based, and so there's several, and this is in line with the homework that students are assigned during a similar unit in 4th and 5th grade at Heritage and at the middle school. Again, just meant to open up dialogue, having parents have conversations about their experiences in childhood, who their friends were, the things that they did, who influenced their decisions and things like that.
That's great. Are some of those discussion questions embedded in the PDFs of the lessons, or is that something that's separately sent home?
Yeah, no, those should be embedded in the PDFs that are found in that those drive folders.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Cameron, you did a great job answering a question that I had beforehand with regards to handouts and homework and privacy. This question was prompted by particularly 2 sections in the list of links that Kara had given to us. I went to pull one up, and I think the Dropbox links are maybe not accessible in this building. I'm not sure. I had no problem at home, but I can't get to it now. But it was in the proposed order number 2, sexual orientation, behavior, and identity, how I feel, what I do, and who I am. There was a handout that prompted that question, and then there was another one later on that said my personal plan. I was wondering, just for the record and for the rest of the board, if you can talk a little bit about what you told me about privacy and students with handouts and homework.
Yeah, so we had kind of an email correspondence regarding that question, and we talked about teachers, obviously needing to use their professional judgment in determining what is and isn't collected, and obviously respecting privacy laws related to FERPA and disclosing information and things like that. And so this would fall in line with other similar situations. Obviously, some of the topics that are discussed during this unit are more sensitive than others, but the privacy laws and privacy, responsibilities that teachers would have would be in line here. I don't know if I'm summarizing that correspondence fully.
Oopsie. There was one in that particular section too. I didn't want there to be a student who felt uncomfortable answering some of those questions, thinking that it might be read by others, and I see how they turn homework in baskets in the class. So I just wanted to reassure for families that was really taken into consideration, some of the sensitivity of that information.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's something that our FCS teachers are mindful of currently, and I think it's important to continue that, just both identifying how things are collected, especially with sensitive, or not collected at all, right? It could be a private reflection.
Absolutely.
That's not turned in, that's just meant to spur some reflection, internally.
Yeah. Great. My second question, if you can go back a slide, and I think we talked about this a little last time. How would that be operationalized to observe instruction? Because I'm just thinking about the rights of families, but I'm also thinking about the children in that classroom. If adults who they didn't know were coming to observe them, and like a chilling effect. I'm trying to figure out how that works. Do you have any ideas?
That is a really good question. I think, we have implemented a couple of different curricular programs over the past few years with our body safety training, K-3, and then obviously the adolescent health in 4th through 8th. I believe Kara Davis would be able to answer that best, but
yeah, I mean,
Dr.
we
Kowalski?
would work on I think that's all contextual. So I think like a what if, but it would definitely be based on the context of the request and what classrooms we had available. And so I think contextual question that we would work through with the administrative team there.
Yeah, I think it's important to balance, parents' rights and, transparency with student privacy and the respect of the teachers and their professionalism as well.
Great. Thank you. It was just on that slide. I wanted to ask about it specifically. Thanks.
Any other questions? No. Thank you for all your time.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is listed in this agenda and will not be read aloud. The motion noted will allow for the authorization of all listed items without discussion unless a member of the board requests that any one or all are considered individual. I recommend a motion to authorize the consent agenda as printed.
Motion, Tizities.
Support Hanson.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries 7-0. Items scheduled for the next agenda.
Yes, we do have one item. Finally, we'll be bringing to you the pre-AP pilot courses. We've done a lot of work with teachers and getting that iterative process of making sure we're set to go. So we're excited to bring those to you on the next agenda, and I'm sure some other items as well before spring break.
Public comment number 2. We don't have any. Okay, so the next Board of Education meeting will be held on March 24th at 6:30 p.m. And can I have a recommended motion to adjourn the regular Board of Education meeting March 10th at 8:12 p.m.?
So moved.
Support Tizities.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries 7-0. Thank you, everyone.